All right, Raheem. So Devin Haney, as of yesterday, is officially reported by yours truly, and then later on in the day, Dan Rafael, which really makes it officially official that Devin Haney will be inking a deal with Devin Haney Promotions straight with Dazn, similar to how Teofimo Lopez, without Top Rank, without one of the major promoters, inked a deal with Dazn as well. And this comes after last month when early last month when I reported that Shakur Stevenson is headed to Zuffa. Devin Haney is headed to Zuffa. Zuffa wants them to fight each other. The hang-up is over Shakur Stevenson and the weight. Now, 3/4 of that wound up being true. A month and a half later, Shakur Stevenson is with Zuffa. They did want that fight. The hang-up was over the weight. But ultimately, Devin Haney does not wind up being officially with Zuffa. He is officially with Dazn. And it'll be interesting to see what all came of that. Was there an agreement in principle in place? Was it all the way at the finish line and didn't get done? But it is interesting that I was hearing he was signed with Zuffa, and now yesterday I wind up reporting that he is in fact going to Dazn. And again, Rafael winds up confirming that, which makes it basically true. And that he may be fighting, he probably, it seems as though, will be fighting Keyshawn Davis in October, which is good news for boxing fans. But before you jump in, Raheem, let me give some of the particulars of this deal.
Well, hold on, but I gotta jump in because I just want to deal with what you just said. You're pissing me off. You announced this bit of news. You got the scoop. You say it was 75% true initially. Well, no, it sounds like it was 100% true. And then something has changed. And then when the thing changed, you announced the thing that changed accurately as well. And you were out front and first in both instances. God bless Dan Rafael, but he doesn't make it true. He's just another reporter who reported it after you, which is what everybody else did after you. What makes it official isn't Dan Rafael or Max Kellerman or you or anybody else. It's when Dazn and Devin come out and say, it's officially official. But if we're talking about who made it public, who got the scoop, who reported the breaking news, that's Shawn Zittel. Period. I mean, I guess you're mentioning Dan because you like him or respect him, as I do, but it's no more relevant than any of the other 17 people I've heard say it after you said it. You got the scoop and own it. And you got the first scoop and own that. And I think actually, if it is true that deal was inked and now there's there's going to be some maybe legalities or some fighting between Zuffa and Dazn because maybe Devin's committed to two things at once, well then you're 100% accurate in both cases. So, that's the actual truth.
Well, I understand people's skepticism when I'm originally reporting early last month in June, hey, I'm hearing, which is not the same as confirming, which is, again, why I said yesterday I'm hearing that Haney is already signed with Zuffa, as is Shakur. And again, 3/4 of that all came to fruition.
Or it's all true, and they have reneged on what they signed.
And a big reason why I acknowledged Rafael's report is I was relieved once Rafael's report came through, because, again, I understand why people would be skeptical about, well, first you said he signed with Zuffa. Now you're saying he signed with Dazn. So what is it really? So when Rafael later in the night confirms he is signed with Dazn, it was like, all right, so we're on the right track with everything. That being said, let me go over some of the particulars of what I understand to be true, and that is that Devin, represented by Bill Haney and his lawyer Greg Smith, a longtime boxing attorney, they brokered this deal with two executives at Dazn, that being Jared Cass, their VP, and with Britton Harden, who was on hand in Hollywood a couple weeks ago upon announcing PBC's move to Dazn and Rolly and Teofimo's initial press conference. So I was heard those were the people that brokered this deal to bring DHP to Dazn. And so those are the parties that brought this all together, Raheem. So this is a big development. I think first of all, the important thing about this is the big fight really for Devin Haney in the long-term scope right now, or the short long-term scope, whatever you want to call it, is a Ryan Garcia rematch anyways. That is a bigger fight than the Shakur Stevenson fight. So I feel like in doing the Keyshawn Davis fight next, we like that fight more than the Shakur Stevenson fight, especially a Shakur Stevenson fight at a catch weight. Maybe it'd be discussed with a rehydration clause, all that. The Ryan Garcia rematch is bigger if both guys can get past each of their next fights. Now I remember what I wanted to say, Raheem, and that's
the business of this before we get into the whole who's fighting who shit. Like,
well, I got a few things I got to rattle off too, because I hear many things from people I talk to in the business. I heard that Devin was pissed that once he heard Shakur was going to get more money out of Zuffa than he was going to wind up getting. I heard perhaps he didn't like the likeness agreement where you kind of give up some of your earning potential with sponsorships and everything, and Zuffa may get the bigger cut of all that, and he didn't like that Shakur's announcement may have been first. These are just things that I hear, and then I also hear from other sources that they didn't like Bill publicly, that they being Zuffa and TKO, they didn't like Bill publicly disclosing that he was getting $100 million deal because they're this publicly traded company, and maybe that is sensitive information they don't want out there. So, I'm hearing a lot of things about that, and all I can say is I'm very interested to see what, if at all, it all becomes public, what exactly went down here. What took us from a month and a half ago, Devin Haney's on his way to Zuffa, Bill Haney talking about a $100 million deal, probably with them, you would assume, and all the way to now we're closing July, and he's inking a big multi-fight deal with Dazn. I will be curious to see what all came of that and what changed. But those are some of the things I heard as to why that may have happened. Raheem, finally, please, Cook, what do you think of everything that's going down?
What I think happened is that Bill Haney is possibly the best boxing father in history. Like, this guy is killing it. What happened was they made a deal, I believe, maybe just a handshake deal or maybe just in principle, and found out that not only was one of Devin Haney's contemporaries about to be paid more than him, but was probably headed off at the pass with a last-minute offer from the competitor, and I'll explain those quotes later, in Dazn, and recognized that there was a moment there for his son Devin to capitalize on the strife between the two entities. And it's actually better for Devin to be at Dazn, I would imagine, by Bill Haney's estimation, then looking at the landscape and the Shakur over there. But the Devin is the actually most important piece of that puzzle and needs to have a landscape of fighters that he can continue to maintain his real position atop the heap. I'm not talking about who you think is a better fighter or even who you think beats who, but the truth is that Devin's resume is so much deeper and better, and Devin has more accomplishments than Shakur Stevenson, than Teofimo Lopez, than anybody else that would be considered his contemporary, and he can consider himself, Devin, at the top of the heap. And if he stays outside of Zuffa, stays outside of this equation over here, he can be king over here, which is actually the big pond. Zuffa's the small pond. So now Shakur's the big fish. No, I know that Spence is coming up, but in this idiom, you understand that he's the big fish in the small pond. But Devin's the big fish in the big pond as far as his weight classes go. And now he can dictate what is happening in his career. And he played, Bill, I would say, played this like a classical violin. He was like, we'll do whatever we have to do, Shakur. We'll give you whatever you want. You want 144 pounds? Okay. You want us to fight Keyshawn first? Okay. Just promise you'll fight us after. They said okay, and I said this in the other episode. They said okay to everything, and then ultimately, Shakur's the one who left the battleground first. He found higher ground with Zuffa, probably assuming that Devin would follow, and then there would be leverage for Shakur to make the terms of the fight what he wanted it to be, as Zuffa was going to be 100% invested in making that fight. And Shakur maybe had more leverage, being if he was going to be paid more, that lets you know who's got the leverage, who's got more respect, who is going to have some bargaining power. It's going to be Shakur. Fucking Devin Haney and Bill Haney found a way to turn the tables. And now it looks like, even if it isn't the intention, it looks like at every step, Shakur's the one ducking. Shakur's the one now out here kind of in no man's land with nobody really to fight. Certainly nobody signed to Zuffa. The only other guy signed to Zuffa he already beat. And Devin is going to fight Keyshawn, what seems like he's been forced to fight, but welcomes the challenge. A guy who's not fought at 147 before, a guy who he's mandatory now to fight, so he's taken off his mandatories. He's fighting a new guy, a guy's just stepping up to the division. I think it's going to be an exciting fight. I'm not taking anything away from Keyshawn, but this is, I would say, the less challenging win for Shakur, for Devin if he gets it. This is going to be a more exciting fight because I think there's going to be more action in it. But what it would require for Devin to beat Shakur, I think it's going to require less for him to beat Keyshawn. Not making it a given that he beats either guy. I'm just saying this is a more bite-sized task. And he looks like he is the guy. He looks like the guy who's willing to fight everybody and trying to make all the fights. And his history shows that he is willing to put his money down, go to somebody else's backyard. He'll take the fight that nobody else wants to fight at the time. He's solidified that as his brand. I can't think of, in a single scenario in recent history, somebody who's played the table better than Bill Haney and Devin Haney in this instance. Kudos to them. It's going to be just, branding-wise, it's a tough sell for Shakur now. Shakur really's got to figure it out. Like, what... Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he's just counting his dough, and now that's Zuffa's problem. But it's a bad look. That's not a great look. Not if you want to. You're saying
they make him sharp in Oakland, Raheem? Is that what you're saying? Your hometown?
I mean, those of us who are from the Bay all day, you understand? We realize and get how these things can be played. And where's Shakur from? Jersey?
Newark.
Yeah.
Hey, Brick City.
Yeah, right. You throwing up bricks, bro. We hitting all net.
I think I don't think there's really a big gap between their resume when you consider that Shakur has been lineal at 130 and 140, won a belt at 26, won a belt at 35. I agree with you that Haney's resume is better and he's become undisputed, but technically it's if we're to count every single sanctioning belt, it's 6-5 for Haney, but 4 weight classes for Shakur to Haney's 3. But Haney fought Lomachenko, he fought Ryan Garcia, he fought Brian Norman, he fought, Lenar, and Shakur beat Teofimo. He beat Oscar Valdez off the Burchell win. I'm just saying it's close. It's actually, they're very, very neck and neck in accomplishments and accolades. And I just don't think there's a huge gap in resume between the two fighters with Haney and Stevenson.
You don't think Devin Haney has faced a better competition, had the bigger fights, had the bigger moments in boxing, has established himself better than Shakur has?
He's headlined more pay-per-views, yeah. But I mean, it's just not a big gap. Like I said, Shakur has two. If we're going by the lineal stuff, Shakur has 2 lineal titles to Haney's 1 at lightweight. Shakur did it at 130 and at 140. And yeah, it's a little closer than I think you might think. I mean, give the edge to Haney.
I think maybe again, if you're referencing those statistics, which are also close and some are in favor of Haney, I think perception and reality favor Devin Haney. Yes, he's been in pay-per-view fights. He's been in big fights. He's had better competition. He's a more established champion. We're still debating whether or not Shakur's boring.
That discussion's been had around Devin too, especially around that Jose Ramirez fight, the Brian Norman fight. After he dropped him, that was a big moment, one of the biggest moments of last year. But the fight tailed off as that fight progressed too. A lot of clinching in that fight as well. But Haney's also been in exciting fights with Lomachenko, with Ryan Garcia,
and dropping Norman
Jorge
and
Linares,
facing
Jojo
Norman.
Diaz. He's been but Shakur was in a barn burner with Zepeda, you know.
Right, I think Zepeda was that fight where it was like, oh, he kind of has to do this so that he doesn't live with this brand of a boring fighter forever. Like that was the outlier for the other fights, right? Like maybe, you know, Zuffa obviously agrees with you, but I think Dazn agrees with me.
Yeah, but okay. So, but what about the point Shakur would make then? And by the way, I think I don't go for any talk that Devin Haney took this deal and is fighting because there was going to be a segment of people where if he went ahead and took the 144 with Shakur and dropped his belt like he was asked, then he ducked Keyshawn, okay, to get a big payday from Zuffa to lose to Shakur. If he now there'll be the same segment. Some of them will say now he's ducking Shakur to fight Keyshawn instead. I think ultimately it's on Shakur that he wanted to put so many, you know, weight stipulations between the 144, the rumored, not confirmed, maybe a rehydration clause being attached to a 144, which is really just getting egregious. But maybe that's not true. Maybe it's just 144. But any of it is silly to me and unbecoming of a pound-for-pound champion. If you think you could beat Devin Haney, then you fight the welterweight champ at the full welterweight limit and beat him. That's what Floyd Mayweather had to do to Oscar De La Hoya. And yeah, once Floyd got into a position of being this huge economic draw, which Shakur is not, then he put some BS stipulations on fighters, and Pacquiao did the same thing. But they put in the work to get there as a draw and as a, you know, established Hall of Fame pound for pound great. And Shakur didn't quite get there yet. So I don't think there's any Devin Haney is ducking Shakur Stevenson talk by taking this deal on my end.
Well, it's certainly not on my end either, but there will be out there in the comment section and in the conversation at the barbershop. So the single question to be asked when that is put forward is, how is he ducking Shakur when he's doing what Shakur insisted he do? Wasn't this what Shakur wanted?
And Jay Prince,
wanted
by
Devin
making Keyshawn the WBO mandatory. Yeah.
So if that fight, which appears will happen, does in fact happen, then I would say when that fight is done, if Devin Haney is successful, then it's on Shakur to go to his partners at Zuffa and make this fight happen because he's on the hook for it. This was the original stipulation, right? Like, you got to fight Keyshawn. I'm not going to step in the front of Keyshawn's title shot. Well, if Devin beats Keyshawn and retains his title, then at that point, it's not, or shouldn't be, Devin chasing Shakur anymore. It should be Shakur making sure, kind of like Crawford made sure that or I should say the way Spence made sure that the Crawford fight was next for him. I think it's on Shakur now to make sure that the Haney fight is next for him.
Well, if he doesn't, he'd be 0 for 2 if Devin beats Keyshawn, which is not a given. Keyshawn's very dangerous. And when you say Keyshawn isn't the threat, essentially, that Shakur is, I think basically everyone would agree with you, given where they're at in their careers. But Keyshawn does present elements to his style and attributes of danger that go beyond Shakur in certain areas. He's longer, he's a little taller, and he punches harder. And he has more offensive firepower overall. So in some areas, he is a more dangerous fight for Devin Haney. And styles make fights. It remains to be seen if his style winds up being the right style to beat Devin Haney, if he's got some kryptonite for Devin Haney. But yeah, if he doesn't do what you're talking about, then and Devin does beat Keyshawn, then he's 0 for 2 because he did it with Raymond Ford first. And then if you get through him, I'm going to kick your ass. And, you know, then get through my little brother first. That didn't happen. And if it happens with Keyshawn, he's going to be looking a little crazy out here.
This is what I'm saying. This is why I'm saying that Bill and Devin played these cards and flipped this table so poetically. They've really boxed Shakur in. They've got a lot of options, and they're seemingly doing everything and saying yes to everything, except being paid less than Shakur. And now they've got a big fight, an exciting fight, a fight that's probably entertainment-wise more exciting than the Shakur fight would be. And again, I'll say an easier fight, not an easy fight, not a given win, but an easier fight. Technically, I think Devin has more advantages in the Keyshawn Davis fight than he would have in the Shakur fight. It'll be more entertaining, and if he does win, he'll be a bigger star for it. He'll have defended his WBO title. It'll be a fight that we remember. It'll be a fun fight to watch, and he'll be continuing his momentum and maintaining his status at the top of the heap. And right now, it looks like Devin is the guy who's got a plan and something that we can all look forward to. And Shakur is the guy who's searching, or at least Zuffa's the company that now has to be searching on Shakur's behalf. And with Shakur being the one to put all the stipulations forward and to be the one who seemed to be chased for the fight, and now going to Zuffa, which you could say running to Zuffa, is in a perilous kind of situation, just perception-wise. Just
well, he'll argue that, look, Ryan Garcia is a Dazn fighter fighting Conor Benn on Paramount. Why can't we make the same thing happen here at some point with the Devin Haney fight?
And he's gonna have to argue that to Zuffa. Like, that's my point. He can, but now he has to, and it's not on Devin anymore. That's the box he's in. And then what happens? Bill and Devin get exactly what they wanted. They can defend their title. They can, if they can, beat Keyshawn, and then that makes the Shakur fight that much bigger. And you're negotiating now between Dazn and Zuffa, which I think gets Devin more money. They won. And if somehow it doesn't happen, it's going to be blamed on Shakur, and probably rightly so.
Another part I left out of why Devin may have ultimately chose Dazn over Zuffa, and these are just, things I'm hearing, not confirmed yet. He'll get a percentage point of his pay-per-view sales, whereas Zuffa may just be the flat fee for what you're going to get. You're going to get your guarantee of $10 to $15 million per fight, but that's essentially going to be it. Whereas with Dazn, you get a percentage points of something, so that may have something to do with it too. But here's the thing. Here's what
I just like as we keep it. That's more money. And if the Shakur fight then becomes bigger than what it would have been now, which if he does beat Keyshawn and whoever Shakur beats next, it will be bigger then than it would have been now, and you'll have a more negotiation because you're not with Zuffa. You get that point, and so he's then in a much better position.
Right. And also, but don't forget money for a second. Competitive wise, boxing wise, what I like about this for Haney is you don't want to concede the fight before the fight. And a 144-pound weight clause is conceding a round before the bell rings. And we always talk about, and you used to teach me about back in the day, the fight before the fight. You don't concede the fight before the fight like that. You defend your title at the full weight limit. And if he beats Keyshawn Davis, I almost guarantee you they will say that. Yeah, let's do the fight at 147. No rehydration clause. Because if you don't want to take it, again, the biggest fight to be made in his career anyways is not Shakur Stevenson. It is a Ryan Garcia rematch. And let's say he could beat Keyshawn Davis in October. Him and Ryan Garcia on Cinco de Mayo 2027 would be almost 20 years to the day that Floyd Mayweather, the guy that Devin looked up to growing up, had a relationship with growing up, trained under his father, would have a chance at a mini, because it's not going to do 2.4 million buys. It's not going to be quite the world awaits. No fight is in today's boxing, unfortunately. But it would be his version of a Mayweather-De La Hoya kind of fight. And Oscar would be literally promoting Ryan in this scenario, as fate would have it. And if you could beat Ryan on Cinco de Mayo, that is your best play to do what Floyd Mayweather did, which is, as an American fighter, snatch the Mexican dates to become the face of boxing, to become the guy. So really, if he could even settle for just beating Keyshawn and winning the public relations war, winning the PR war. I don't even got to fight you at that point, because everyone's going to be dogpiling on Shakur for putting the weight stipulation, him and Jay putting the Keyshawn fight on Devin. Devin doesn't balk at it. He takes it. He wins it. And then, like, the big one is Ryan Garcia rematch at that point anyways. And he won't need a Shakur Stevenson fight. And if he is going to go for the Shakur Stevenson fight, it would have to be more likely on his terms.
Excellently said. Exactly the point. He has more options. He's got better options. And he's got way more leverage now when the Shakur fight comes, because it's Shakur who needs to make the fight with Devin. If, of course, and we continue to point out it's a big if, he beats Keyshawn Davis. But if he does, he's in the catbird seat. And, of course, you're not negotiating to lose a fight. So that they put themselves in the position to win across the board. And let's not forget this little bit of factual news. That is also meaning that Devin Haney Promotions is Devin Haney's promoter. He is signed to the network, but he's his own promoter. So that's more money that no longer has to be split outside the family. And he's going to be solely negotiating the terms. It's not going to be Dazn negotiating the terms. Devin Haney gets to promote himself. And I can tell you right now, 144 is out the window now. When they come back to this fight, I would be shocked. I would be appalled, really, if 144 was still on the table now. I guarantee you, if he beats Shakur, if he beats Keyshawn, when Shakur comes calling, we're back at 47. And like you say, the big fight, the bigger fight, the biggest fight, if Ryan Garcia beats Conor Benn, is 100% the rematch. And guess what? That rematch ain't going to be on Dazn and ain't going to be on Zuffa. That's going to be on Netflix. Right. And where is Zuffa and Dazn getting the money to pay these guys so much? They're banking on getting broken off when Netflix comes calling to put their fighters on the Netflix platform. That's baked in the cake as well. But you know who doesn't lose money when that happens? Devin Haney. Or whoever the fighter is, if they're their own promoter, that gets to go to the other platform, the bigger platform, and have the Netflix night. So when that fight comes, yes, they've paid Devin more than Shakur, maybe more than you would say Devin's worth, possibly. But they also know that if Devin does his job, they're going to get some of that money back just in a fee, just in a step-aside money. That's baked in the cake. It's a master stroke.
And Devin and Shakur was rumored to be a Netflix fight if it was actually going to happen. So, of course, a bigger fight economically in Devin and Ryan would be on Netflix as well. It's a good point, Raheem.
Yeah, and do they run 2 Devin fights back-to-back? I mean, maybe if it's spectacular, but maybe not. The bankable one is the Ryan Garcia one. The one that's we're not so sure about is actually the Shakur one. So if Shakur and Devin are both at Zuffa, neither one of them now promoting themselves. Zuffa is their promoter. Zuffa can make deals on their behalf. Zuffa can let them fight on Netflix and take the money from Netflix, and they really get no extra benefit from that. That is an easier fight for Netflix to make, probably costs less money, and maybe that happens before the Ryan fight, so that money's guaranteed to come, and then you have the Ryan fight if, in fact, Devin is successful in that fight, which is an even bigger if than Keyshawn. So for Devin's sake, it's like he can only lose in the ring. He set himself up to not really be in a position to lose in business. And Shakur now needs to work with his partners at Zuffa and put himself in a position to do something that is on par with what Devin's pulled off. And I don't know what that would be, but I guarantee you the thinking caps are in and on. And the guys at Zuffa are very unhappy with this development. I think what I just said was the original plan, and now they're scrambling.
Well, yeah, losing the inside the ring part is the treacherous, dangerous, and for us, exciting and enticing part of this whole equation because Keyshawn's dangerous. The winner of T.O. and Rolly is dangerous. I think even more so in a way if it's Rolly because we kind of know what T.O. struggles against and Devin would know the playbook to go to. If Rolly can pull off an upset next month, and that would be a more unpredictable matchup than T.O., who again, the book is out on what you got to do, and Devin possesses the attributes, many of them that Shakur had and other fighters that made T.O. struggle, but it's still a good fight, T.O. and Devin, if T.O. can get by Rolly. The only one in this equation that's you could pretty much pencil him in is the Liam Paro fight. But the winner of Rolly, T.O., Keyshawn, and then again, most importantly, Ryan Garcia, all exciting, dangerous, winnable, and losable matchups for Devin Haney. So I like all of them. Now, about Rolly and Devin, remember, that fell through because DHP wanted to be a promoter of that fight. And because it was a more eat what you kill kind of model and whatnot, then that's when being a promoter isn't all it's cracked up to be. That's when you don't really want to be the promoter because you are actually incurring the risk of the event. But with this DAZN arrangement, it would seem like you get to have your cake and eat it too. You get to be your own promoter and everything actually gets subsidized by the network. So you're not actually taking any of the risk or the costs of being your promoter, which is probably part of why it was too sweet a deal to turn down in the end.
And it is also proof positive of what was said prior on our show by me about what was about to be the role of promoters at DAZN. What the big game is. That it is, yes, Zuffa and Dazn are in competition for talent, but ultimately these two silos are both going to be eclipsed by the Netflix golden pony, and they can recoup some of the money that they spend on their fighters by letting them fight on Netflix. And DAZN will be looking to all the promoters who are signed to the DAZN network to produce more stars, to come up with the next generation of athletes who can sell pay-per-view and fill stadiums. And when they get to that stage, they know that they too can be in a position like Devin Haney to leave the promoter behind, be their own promoter, get a much bigger cut of the money, have more control, and get money from the network to independently operate without wearing a uniform, without giving up your commercial licensing, without giving up your image and likeness. You've got an opportunity there to, as you say, be your own boss and potentially incur your own risk. But you see that every fighter of note has a promotion company, but it's really just a promotion company in name, and they're always actually being promoted by one of the bigger promoters. And the bigger promoters are the ones who have to deal with the network. And that's what the value, essentially, of the promoter is, in addition, of course, to being able to actually put the show on and know the business. But if these fighters are learning the business and they don't need the promoter to get onto the network, that makes the promoter's position and benefit far less valuable. The promoters now are going to be getting the most out of the fighters as they can before that fighter becomes so big that they can't hold him anymore. This is the new model. Just like Zuffa is kind of like I get the Paramount's the network, but really that's that Zuffa model, as they say with this UBO idea and all that. They want to be all in-house. They want to be promoter, network, manager. They want to be all the things. They want to sell your image and likeness. They want to put you in a gray short set. They want to do all the things and be everything to all the fighters. And that is a full whole package you're selling them. You're giving them everything. On the other hand, this is a more, on the DAZN side, you've got more freedom, but you've got to be one of the rare few that the network sees that much value in. You don't have to have as much value to get signed to DAZN. And if you have big value now, you can get big money out of DAZN, but you're signing away all of that upside potential.
Zuffa.
Devin's kind of betting on himself a bit, but he's got a hell of a safeguard with that check from DAZN. And they've proven in Devin that not only can they make big fights, they can win big fights, that they've been on pay-per-view, that he's willing to take the fight that nobody else wants when nobody else wants it, and he can win it. Even if he just edges it, he continues to be successful, so why wouldn't they bet on themselves? This is more of an easy ride for Shakur. He doesn't have to worry about any of that other stuff anymore, but now he's got to worry about, who am I going to fight? And where is this going to leave my legacy? And if these other guys don't play ball, am I out here in the cold? That's a real concern.
Well, he could wrap himself in the warmth of tens of millions of dollars. I think he'll be okay. But
yes, but he is a competitor. He is a warrior at heart.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be the guy.
He matters. Yeah. He wants to be seen as one of the best ever. He wants an opportunity to beat these guys and prove that. And with all the millions, yes, I wish I knew what it was like to comfort myself at night with tens of millions of dollars. But I guarantee you, with the competitive spirit that he has, it won't be enough forever.
Right. No, that's not how those guys are wired. They count every dollar, every accolade amongst their competitors, and they want to be the one standing at the top at the end. That's how they're wired. You're 100% right. It's just funny when you mention the promoters in the middle. This actually brings me back to a story about Devin Haney with the late HBO era with Peter Nelson, right? Who many felt dubiously steered that ship into its final days. And I remember I'm at a
panic.
Yeah, I think Sergey Kovalev was getting ready to fight Najib Mohammadi. I think it might have been at Mandalay Bay, if my memory serves me correctly. And I'm telling Peter, and Peter's talking about at the time, yeah, we're more invested in Joshua because no one really likes Fury, and Joshua's the good-looking, universally accepted Brit and everything. And okay, fine, that's one point. And then I go, you should get this kid Devin Haney on your network, man. Like, I cover him here in Vegas. I think he's got a really bright future. You should consider having him. He's like, yeah, I told Bill and Devin they need a promoter to have him on our network. And I remember thinking at my time, like, why though? Like, just if he's good,
your agent deal. If you want to get it, we can get into it. That's
right. No. Well, for another day, but it comes full circle with Devin Haney, because I just remember thinking, like, bro, if he's good and he's got a lot of upside and he's going to be a star, just put him on your fucking network. Like, I don't know. I'm not supposed to know how this works, but
John, I can't let this slide. We can't deal directly with these monkeys.
Oh,
we need somebody that we can trust in a fair complexion and a suit and tie. What am I going to talk to this Bill Haney lunatic? No, they need a promoter. What he's saying is they need a minder. They need a handler. They need somebody who we can do business with, because we can't do business with these people. That's what that actually means.
Is that fair to them when they did do business with, the Al Haymans and the Don Kings once upon a time? And I know the Al Heyman thing eventually split apart,
yes.
And that's why they went to Showtime.
Yes.
Okay, what about Don King then? They
forced into. There's no other.
They
option.
had the executive who.
Listen, just because you have to deal do you remember those emails? Like you think that was that kind of language just being circulated at Golden Boy? Yes, but begrudgingly, like the what it required for those guys to put themselves in a position where HBO had to deal with them, where the networks have to, that's the amount of talent and monopoly on the best in the sport you have to go to a network and get a deal if you're one of those guys.
There was one brother who was atop the HBO hierarchy at one point. I can't remember who it was, but he was doing business with Heyman for a while. But go ahead and talk your shit, Raheem. I'm not here to get in your way. I'm just trying to be fair. I'm just bringing balance to.
This is the model, bro. This is like studios and agents. Well, if I've got a superstar who's an actor who knows the business, who can negotiate his own contract, get his own lawyer, and represent himself, how come that actor can't get signed to a big movie without an agent? Because that is how the structure works, so they can keep the talent, the artist, if you the musician, if it's in every industry, it's the same dynamic, and for essentially the same reason. And there will always be anomalies because there will be people who find their way to get enough value to where they are undeniable, where you get yourself in a position where they've got to deal directly with you. But that's a fight. The structure, the model is established.
That's what I'm thinking of. Kerry Davis. Kerry Davis was he was the senior VP of programming for HBO from 2000 to 2013. He worked directly with guys like Floyd, and up until 2013 when Floyd, went to Showtime. But I'm just saying, just trying to.
I mean, look at who you're calling. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. So, but to close, I'm just happy that first of all we're getting the Keyshawn fight first. I wonder like everybody else how this will ultimately play out. I don't know if this is sustainable by Dazn, who has blinked a lot of red ink or bled a lot of red ink since its inception to keep breaking the bank on signing more talent. But hey, God bless the people who are getting it on both sides at Zuffa and Dazn. Too Short did once said you should be getting it. Get it while the getting is good.
Well, credit to Dazn for seeing the angle and dealing directly with Tio, dealing directly with Devin. They're putting themselves in a position to fight this Zuffa takeover. They're making this landscape interesting, and I believe that all fights can be made. Like, we're not in a situation where these guys are not going to work together and not going to put fights together. That is also the beauty of this triangle tier, as we've discussed before, that this will create an environment where ultimately we'll get all the fights that we need and want. What the losers will be, I believe, is going to be the promoters and their what will soon become the classic relationship with fighters and no longer the modern relationship with fighters. Like, they will not be able to hold on to this talent once they become superstars. There will be now more of a tier system, a different kind of relationship between promoters and fighters. And the fighter now, which is a good thing, will have more options. Do you want to go the Zuffa route, let them take over everything, trust that you get that guaranteed money, and it's their problem whether or not they make the money back? I'm not necessarily mad at that option if that's where the fighter wants to go. He doesn't want to be thinking about this other stuff. He doesn't want to be promoting himself. He doesn't want to be gambling on himself. He wants a guaranteed check every time out, and let this other stuff be somebody else's headache. Fine. If you feel like you've got the star power, you believe in yourself, you can keep winning these fights, and you can do your own business, you want to promote yourself, and you're big enough for the network to want you, and you can bypass a promoter, fine. That's what we're talking about with Floyd, right? I mean, we want if this ultimately becomes what is the Floyd legacy beyond the, fighting for your O, that is a great look. Like that, you saw what Floyd was able to do by leaving his promoter behind. Granted, he had Al Heyman, but left his promoter behind and found a team in Al Heyman at the head of it, doing business independently to a great degree, or certainly independent of a promoter in that way. And then you saw what they did, but even that, they still needed the Golden Boy promotion company at HBO. And then you saw what they tried to do with that. So all of these things are connected. All of these things are evolving to what we see now. And that is more opportunity for fighters. And you have to give Zuffa credit for creating an environment where, yes, indeed, fighters do have more opportunity. Now we'll see the who's who. There's no place to hide for fighters either at the top level.
More opportunity under this current legislation. Yeah.
More options. When I say opportunity, you now have more roads by which to navigate your career. You've got at least 3 clear tracks. You can have a promoter and let them do business with the network and put you on a network that they've signed to, and you negotiate with your promoter, your manager negotiates with your promoter, and you have that kind of traditional relationship. Or you get to the status where you can put your promoter to the side, say, I'm running my own business, I'm going to have my own relationship with the network, I'm my own promoter, and now I have more control, I take more risks, but I make more money if I'm gambling on myself and winning. Or you could say, hey, these guys over here at Zuffa have Paramount. They're going to put me on ESPN. They're going to put me on all of these much bigger media platforms. Well, granted, I don't know my likeness or the way I dress or my own brand might also be owned by Zuffa, but I have a guaranteed check. I will be a bigger star potentially. And while this is a small pond, I can be the big fish. Those are three distinct different tracks. And fighters have certainly not always had that many options.